Welcome, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to our presentation today. Today, we'll be talking about Basic International School Shenzhen, the first international school in the Basic International Schools Network. We're excited to share some insights and information about our school with you. In today's presentation, we will be covering a few key topics. We're covering the school. We'll touch on some key aspects of the network of Basic International Bilingual Schools. We'll also touch on key aspects of the benefits and expat package, as well as some of the visa requirements. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. As part of the session, there is a Q&A link. So down at the bottom of the Zoom menu, you can click the Q&A. Submit your questions there. We'll be answering all the questions there at the end of the presentation. So to start things off, today we will be discussing, my name is Tim Smith, and I am the Vice President of Global Talent with Basic International Schools. Today we have the pleasure of having Nick Bodding with us. He's the Executive Head of School at Basic International School, along with Leila Ospui, who is the International Recruiting Team Lead, who works directly with the school that we have in Shenzhen. So to get things going again, Basic International School Shenzhen was the first international school. So we're looking forward, Nick, to having you share some insights about the school. But to introduce Nick, Nick is the executive head of the school. He oversees the school. Nick, looking forward to your insights. So we'll go ahead and hand it over to you, and anything you'd like to share. And I'm sure we may have some thoughts along the way.
Thank you, Tim. Always a pleasure to talk about Basic International School Shenzhen. Well, it's a very warm welcome from me. It's a bright, sunny morning here. I've just walked into school, as I do every morning. It takes me a nice sort of 20-minute stroll. And today's actually, or this week is a little bit special for us. It's actually Spirit Week, which gives the kids and the staff a chance to dress up each day. Today's theme was animals. And you might say, well, the headmaster doesn't get involved, but in fact, I do have a nice tie on here with some lovely pandas on. So I did show that off at the gate amongst crocodiles, cats, a few wild animals I didn't actually recognize, but it was a lot of fun, and we do like to have fun. But anyway, before I talk about the school, a little bit of background about me. I'm originally from the UK, and I began my sort of teaching career a bit like many people in teaching, I guess, a tad by not by mistake so much as more of an experiment. So I originally studied mathematics and management sciences at Manchester University back in 1983, which is a while ago. As you can see, there's sort of a little bit of grey hair there, and I thought I might become a banker, or at least my mother did. So I tried banking for a while, and that was a disaster. I went back to university to study education. Thought that might work out, but at the time I was secretly aspiring to become a world-class rock climber. Anyway, as I began sort of university lectures and got into education and what it really means, I suddenly found that I found my place in life, and that was a great moment. It stays with me. And I try to summarize it sometimes after 37 years of education as to what am I still looking for? And I guess it's that ultimate sort of pursuit of what do we actually mean by learning? And I've had this conversation many, many times with many teachers, many administrators over the years. And I think we're still trying to find the key, if you like, to open that very, very complex door. And that has meant all the way through my career that I'm always looking to improve ways in which kids learn. And I find myself as enthusiastic today as I was 37 years ago, just perhaps, I hope, a little bit wiser. And so as I went, I did my training in the UK, and I taught in the UK. I taught mathematics for 6 years. I then launched into an international career in my pursuit, if you like, of the answer to that question about what is learning. So that took me to Finland, where I got married and started a family for 9 years. And that was 9 years of getting my head into the most remarkable education system that I've come across to date. And Finland is very famous nowadays for its education. At the time, it wasn't. So this was very much an interesting adventure for me. My family and I then moved to Thailand. A third boy arrived whilst we were in Thailand. So my kids are very international. We then moved to Spain. We moved back to Thailand. We then moved to China for the first time, moved to Shanghai, and then off to the Middle East, to Qatar, and then finally back to Shenzhen. And I'm still searching for the ultimate answer to the question, but I think I might be getting a little bit closer before retirement looms, perhaps in 10 years or so. Next slide, please. So after 29 years of working in IB schools and the last 20 years as an administrator, I was looking for a fresh challenge. And I hadn't heard about BASIS. Someone introduced me to what is ostensibly quite a unique model. I was immediately attracted to what happens in BASIS schools. I could see this big thing taking off in China, and I wanted to get involved. So I joined the BASIS group as a chief instructional officer in 2020, which is more of a sort of consulting role, looking at all of the BASIS schools, and then became the head in 2021. So I'm just moving through my second year as the head here. And this is a really remarkable school. As Tim said, this is the first school of the network, opened in 2015. I'm not sure if the vision then was to open 10 schools across China, but we've opened 7 now and 3 more on the way very, very soon. So it's been quite a remarkable growth story. And this school has always played a special role in the growth of the network. It's very much the mothership. And we initiate a lot of the ideas here. We help colleagues. We lose a lot of our teachers to our other schools as they open, and we support them along the way. But I think the other schools are sort of catching up now in many ways, and it feels more like we're a big team nowadays, which is great. And of course, this is a very exciting time to consider joining BASIS International School Shenzhen. We've been oversubscribed for many years. We have a great reputation as a truly academic school here in Shenzhen. And now we're moving to a new campus, which will bring about a very large expansion. And I think will firmly embed us as, if you like, in many ways, the school of choice in this city. Next slide, please. So we have an interesting collection of pictures here, which perhaps in many ways tries to capture a little bit about who we are as a group of educators. We have approximately 100 expat staff at the moment, and they are drawn from across the world. Originally, they were largely from the US, but as we've grown, we've expanded our pool and the diversity as well. And I think the diversity of the professional, social, and sort of cultural aspects of our staff are a massive factor in the quality of the student life here. We expect our staff to model global citizenship, and I think this really helps us create a sort of an inclusive environment. So although we're a very academic school, our kids are very diverse in their interest levels, and we try to find a pathway for every child that would lead them to success. If you look at the sort of BASIS story, you'll often come across the term subject expert teacher, and that word expert is very important in our world. And of course, we do expect expertise in your chosen discipline. But I would say, more importantly, we expect you to be a great teacher, or we expect you to have the potential to become a great teacher and to join us on that journey. So we're looking for people that really light intellectual fires and adore serious fun. We encourage our teachers to provide authentic learning wherever the opportunity arises. And you can see a little picture top left there of pavement art. And that was a wonderful project. And produce some stunning results, as you can see. But wherever the opportunity arrives, we look for authentic learning, and even if it's slapping each other in the face with cream pies, it's still a learning moment. And so whatever the occasion, we love to get involved. Next slide, please. One of the great privileges I have in my job is that I can actually wander the campus and talk to kids from all different age groups, and this is a real pleasure, but at the same time it's actually quite daunting sometimes. And maybe I can just give you a little example. I was sitting in the canteen having lunch, and because I wander the campus a lot, the kids feel that they can just freely walk up to me and ask me questions. So one little girl in grade 3, who I didn't know at the time, I now know her name is Sally with 1 L, said to me, "Are you the boss here?" I nodded, and she said, "Because if you are, I want to know why the canteen doesn't provide ice cream. And why is it that the canteen is too hot in summer and too cold in winter?" Well, I managed to squirm my way out of this one, but there's an important message here. If you want to work at BISZ, you need to be prepared to be challenged. It seems that our students' curiosity is never ending, and they expect you to know everything. They are very polite about it, though. Next slide, please. And so, as I mentioned to you, we're moving to a new campus in August, and the building is well underway, and I visit it regularly. And I'm just waiting for the opportunity now to actually get inside and start taking students around and making a few videos, perhaps with the student council, as the building really sort of takes shape. You can see from some of the artwork here that it looks pretty impressive. And what I can say is that I've visited a couple of our new schools very recently. We opened a school in Chengdu about a month ago, and also one in Futian about a year ago. And the quality in those schools, the quality of the facilities, is absolutely breathtaking. And when you sort of walk in, there's a major wow factor. And I've mentioned this to the board chair more than once, and he has assured me that the mothership will be even better. It has to be, he said, because this was the original school, and this is the one that's closest to his heart. And his son graduated from this school as well. So we can expect something really, really special. Some information I do have is, we have a 650-seat theatre with the holographic projection. I've seen the holographic projection in action. That's impressive. There's a very large black box theatre as well. 4 art rooms, 4 music rooms, 10 practice rooms, swimming pools, 10 labs, you name it, it's all there. So the plan is really, really impressive. What I really like is the space. I mentioned learning taking place and authentic learning happening in all kinds of different places. I think we'll have so many more opportunities now for that sort of thing. So I'm very excited about that. And this, of course, means that we will have a large number of vacancies coming along. It's actually pretty broad because the expansion goes all the way from kindergarten through to high school. So in many ways, we're actually looking for teachers in all of the normal disciplines that you would expect: mathematics, English, history, all 3 sciences, so biology, chemistry, physics. So that's middle school and high school. Speech and debate, physical education, pretty much all there. So we're going to be probably expanding by about 400 kids. So that's a lot of extra teachers. So exciting times ahead, busy times ahead. And we've actually already started recruiting, and we've hired our first teacher for next year, a primary mathematician already. So we're 1 down. Okay, next slide, please. Right, so what about learning for teachers at BISZ? We do say in our literature that if you join us, our professional promise to you is that you will leave us as a much better teacher than when you arrived. So I thought I'd just give you a little bit of a taster of our PD day, which is coming up in November. We have 2 full PD days a year when the children don't come in, and we can really focus on the growth of our staff. So we're just drawing the program up now, and the program is going to focus on a few key questions that relate to our teaching domains. And we'll have a look at those in just a second. Maybe we can just flip to those on the next slide. Yes, so here we are. So we've got 4 teaching domains which form the basis really of our growth story. And for each domain, there are a number of strands. So we've got 15 strands altogether and 4 domains. And these are used to guide our teachers. They're used to help our administrators when they're evaluating teachers. So our lesson observations relate back to these domains all the time, and also our coaching conversations as well. So these are very much part of the DNA, if you like, of the school. So for our PD day that's upcoming, we've derived 4 questions, one drawn from each domain. So if we just flip back to the previous slide. So these workshops that we're setting up will be run by administrators and also what we call our master teachers. These are people that we've already identified as mastering one or more of those domains. So here are the questions that we're going to be exploring on that particular day. The first question is, how do teachers construct tasks that invite all students to learn? So something on sort of really working into the differentiation piece there. The second one, how does repertoire help to maintain high levels of cognitive activity? So we're very keen on our teachers using many different approaches during one class. And we're looking for how you can link those processes and create a really sort of dynamic, long-lasting level of engagement. The third question is, what does evidence of student learning actually look like? I was talking to our head of early childhood about this only yesterday and saying, what does evidence of learning look like for a 4-year-old? What does evidence of learning look like for a 17-year-old? And by evidence, we're not talking about the latest test score. That's always summative. That's actually a little bit too late in the day. What does evidence look like right in front of your eyes in the formative way when you're in the classroom? And the fourth question we're going to explore is, how do teachers design activities that lead to deepening lines of inquiry? And that deepening line of inquiry, that sort of depth of understanding, is a key part of our school life. We're very, very keen to develop the intellectual qualities of the kids and go beyond what I call often just the academic. I think very often the academic are the grades, if you like, the AP scores in our case. But we see that as just part of the learning process, but we want to go much deeper because it's the intellectual stuff that really makes a big difference in the world, particularly in terms of leadership. And part of our mission statement, of course, is producing the leaders of tomorrow. So that's our PD day that's coming up. It'll be done in a very collaborative way. And the idea really is to get teachers to reflect on their practice, share best practice, and then generate better practice through the collaboration process. Okay, next slide, please. And the next slide. Okay, so the end product, our students, where do they go to? We can see from the stats that we do have some very, very impressive results. Students going on, and the usual target for us are top 30 universities and colleges around the world. We originally were focusing on the US, but we've broadened now quite a bit. And last year we started applying through to Oxford and Cambridge and top UK universities. And now we have a detailed sort of well-defined program for preparing kids for that route as well. Although most of our best students actually apply for both. And excuse me. And so I just wanted to share a couple of sort of characters, if you like, that have recently graduated or are about to graduate from the school. So meet Kenny. Kenny's a very interesting young man. He graduated last year, and he's very quietly spoken. You wouldn't really engage in many conversations with him unless you talk about mathematics. I did a practice interview with him where I gave him a set of questions to do and just watched him talk me through them. And it was the most impressive thing I've seen in 37 years of mathematics teaching. So what does the picture portray? Well, that's actually Kenny setting the world record for the Rubik's clock. which is like a Rubik's Cube, same kind of thinking. And that world record still holds. And as you can see, he was quite young when he set it. So Kenny's gone off to Oxford to study mathematics, and we wish him well. Another student of interest is someone called Ken. Interestingly enough, not all our kids are called Ken and Kenny, but Ken is a student this year who captures some of the diversity of the student body. So he's just submitted an application to Cambridge to study engineering. However, he's also applying to Ivy League colleges with confidence to study Portuguese and Spanish. And that's quite an interesting spread, is it not? In case you're wondering, he actually grew up in Brazil and Mexico, and then moved to China and to BASIS as a grade 6 student. And he came to us last year and he said, I need to get an AP Spanish score onto my transcript. We said, well, we don't offer AP Spanish. We don't have a teacher. And he said, I don't need a teacher. I can do it self-taught. So he did. And of course, he got a 5. And Ken's a very interesting guy because in many ways, he captures this kind of polymath type of kid. And we really appreciate this sort of diverse intellectual prowess, sort of Da Vinci-esque sort of characters. And we also look, of course, to our hiring pool to see, what kind of people are out there that might inspire our kids, not just with their subject expertise, but in the fact that they've achieved so many other things in their lives. And just a couple of examples of 2 of our top mathematicians at the moment, our 2 main AP teachers. One of them is a published novelist in Turkish, and the other one is a concert-level pianist. So, we're very keen to develop the intellectual, the polymath sort of approach to life, and never try and put kids into boxes by modeling that ourselves. Okay, next slide, please. So, living in Shenzhen. So Shenzhen has a population of about 15 million last time I looked. And I guess when you tend to look at these kind of pictures, you think, okay, modern Chinese city, lots of stunning buildings, lots of steel, lots of glass, and very busy, very crowded, possibly polluted. I used to live in Shanghai, so I could use maybe some of those descriptors. Pollution is absolutely not a problem here, by the way. The air is very, very clean. And has been for a few years. But there's another side to life in Shenzhen, particularly if you live in Shekou, where the school is situated. And you can see, again, these are sort of some impressive pictures, but if we go to the next slide, we can see perhaps a little bit more of life in Shekou. So Shekou is in Nanshan district. Nanshan district actually contains 9 of the 10 international schools in Shenzhen. And so that means that there are a lot of teachers living in this area. And of course, because there are a lot of teachers living in this area, that brings a natural diversity to what goes on. But we can see if we just kind of look around here, first of all, it's very green. We have Nanshan Mountain overlooking the school. And the new campus is not very far from the current school as well. So Nanshan Mountain will always be kind of over your shoulder, as it were. And one of the things to do is just to walk the mountain. The mountain is very green, and that's the photo right in the middle. And you can see views from the mountain as well. A couple of the pictures there, the photo right in the center, looking out over the sea, is from Nanshan Mountain. And I've been up on Nanshan Mountain and not even known I was in a city. You can get completely lost up there in your own sort of world. And that's kind of nice in many ways. If you're wondering what you're actually looking out over there in terms of the landscape beyond the sea, that is, of course, Hong Kong. We're very close to Hong Kong here. And when it opens, it will be lovely to visit. There's a very nice golf course on the right there. There's actually lots of golf courses around the way, and there's also in the top right corner, I don't think it's quite quite. Just a second. Yep. Walking around Shekou is delightful because there are these really lovely old gnarly trees everywhere, and as you can, and you always feel like you're sort of almost in an old sort of oldie worldy forest at times, despite the fact you're in this city where everything works. Life, it's very easy living. You can get whatever you need in terms of shopping. There are lots of gourmet restaurants around. The nightlife is whatever you want to make it. So in many ways, it offers you everything. But for me, and maybe that's my age, I feel like I'm living in a kind of village. And it's sort of got that village feel about it, despite the fact there's 15 million people around you. And the village feel brings lots and lots of surprises, including the odd alpaca. And if you're into the arts, this is a very kind of funky, arty area. We've got OCT Loft just up the road, which is full of art galleries and single malt whiskey tasting establishments. That's one of my interests, by the way. So there really is an awful lot. It's very, very green. The temperature is very, very nice. Hot in the summer, but now it's really beautiful. And I think Shenzhen really is a place where you can find whatever you want to find at your own pace, regardless of what age you might be. Lovely for families. It's full of parks. It really is high quality life. And Shenzhen often comes up on those best places to live in cities around the world, and I think that's fully justified. And I guess I can say that because I've lived in many different places. And so, in conclusion, I think the overall experience of working for us and living in Shekou is truly rewarding in every sense. And why not join us? It's a very, very exciting time ahead, and we'll have a lot of serious fun together. Thank you.
Hey, well, Nick, really excited about the new campus that you have there. Beautiful facilities, brand new. One of the things that I really like is that, we're so well known for our academics and our STEM programs and whatnot, but, you'd highlighted we have multiple arts rooms, multiple theaters. And the thing that's actually impressed me about our school in Shenzhen is that the arts are phenomenally strong. We've had presentations at the local galleries, and you saw even the chalk art by the young students outside the school is actually quite impressive. So it's fun that the students have such diverse interests. We touched on a couple that in particular were great. So really wonderful school and campus that you have there. I really liked how you touched on. Oh, go ahead.
No, so I just add a piece about the arts. Actually, I was going to mention that. We've just added a medal program. So medal program is again to offer even more challenge for our kids in the high school. And when we sat down as a school and said, what should we build our first medal program around? We actually chose up the arts because we've got so many kids who are academically brilliant in if you like the normal subjects, but their passions lie in the arts, whether it's music, art, drama. So the medal program, which sits on top of the normal academic rigor, was launched last year. And I went to the auditions that the kids undertook. My word, it was incredible. I just went away. I was blown away by the whole thing, So, I think that speaks very, very loudly to what you're saying there, Tim.
Yeah, it is. It's great. I really love that. And I like how you talked about, look for those teachers that you said, really light the intellectual fires and adore learning. And as I visited the school in the past, it's so tangible within the school that the teachers are very passionate about what they're doing. And you kind of see that excitement in the classroom. And you do see those fires lit in the students, and similar to Sally with 1L, who came up and asking questions. They're very inquisitive. And that's one of the things I've also loved is that, so many times in schools across Asia, or particularly within China, students don't vocalize and inquire and ask as much as we might like. But one of the things I've seen is because of the culture that you have in your school is the students have really come to really have that intellectual curiosity and ask the questions and engage with teachers, and something that's really so fun. But great to expat friendly location in Shekou. And
Yeah.
I love many of the restaurants there. Like you said, you can find anything you want, wherever you come from around the world. There's everything there. It's a great location with access to anything you might want. So it's really great. Well, wonderful. Well, Nick, thank you. I'm going to touch on some of the aspects about the broader network as well. So moving along, as far as our network, the Basic Curriculum Schools Network consists of schools across the United States and in Asia. We do have, we will be opening up, the next 2 schools. The upcoming school year will have 10 international and bilingual schools to go along with the 6 independent schools we have in the United States. Next, one of the things that's really important to us is our mission, and the mission that we are pursuing is something that is very tangible for us. And some of the key parts of the mission is that we really are providing our students with that transformative education with the curriculum we have, and particularly it's really through the great teaching that Nick focused on, the structure we have on that, but particularly the faculty mentoring and how we really look to work with our teachers to enhance their craft and become even better in delivering great education to the students. But building those broad intellectual capabilities, perspectives, building the critical thinking and creative problem-solving skills that, as Nick had mentioned, help them be leaders in their future academic and professional lives. It's some of the things that are really important to us. The way we do that, next, touching on some very general aspects of the curriculum in the early grades. We're really developing that love and respect of learning. Middle school grades, more enhancing the academic mindset, and then really fostering college readiness and building against developing that intellectual curiosity to go deep in subjects of their passions and interests, and helping them understand and know how to do that. Next. It's yielded as a network, similar to what you saw in the impressive graduation and acceptance results. We've had over 95% of our graduates across the network of our international schools accepted into top 50 universities, and 77% accepted into top 30 universities. You can see some of the great universities they've been accepted into: college, universities and colleges: Boston, Carnegie Mellon, Cornell, Duke, Imperial College of London, MIT, Rice, UCLA, Chicago, Oxford, Toronto, Rhode Island School of Design, one of the top arts universities in the world. So it's some great results that the students are able to accomplish, and that really comes from the teachers. They're very passionate and really looking to help those students develop the great intellectual curiosity that Nick had touched on. Next, I'm going to pass things over to Layla. Layla will talk a little bit more about our teachers, the experience, some things that are important, as well as touch on the Expat package people can anticipate participating on. So, Layla.
Great, thank you so much. It's going to be hard to come after such eloquent speakers, and Nick, you just said so many things that I'm sitting here. I speak about Shenzhen all day, and I'm just like in awe of everything you say as well, and it just makes me fall in love with Shenzhen and the school over there even more. So thank you so much. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of talk about why teach at Basis International Schools, which obviously includes Basis International Shenzhen. Again, Nick spoke about this quite a bit already, but we really do foster a very collaborative learning environment. There's really no limit to how, who, when, where our teachers can collaborate. You can collaborate as a drama teacher with the economics teacher in 12th grade. It's as long as there's some sort of you make this connection and you're building this why, this love of why are we learning this, and showing them real life connections as well. The academic culture. So like they mentioned, we have incredible results, and that's shown in a lot of the things that they do in Basis International with their curriculum. We have a culture of very high expectations that again is for the students, and it is as well for the teachers. If the students are at such level of academics, the teachers need to at least meet, if not exceed that, and try to get them at the higher level as well. So teachers they do have high expectations as well. We have a very highly respected network and renowned network of schools. And Tim mentioned we have private independent schools in the United States, as well as our network of international schools. And we have very unique career opportunities with the PD day that Nick mentioned. Obviously, that's not only to make you a better educator, but help foster and promote your own career path as well. And, he mentioned, Shenzhen has, I don't want to say lose, but lost teachers to other schools, but, they onto their next journey to help further their careers. And we do really help with their unique career opportunities. And I think my favorite thing about Basis, honestly, is teaching the students who are genuinely motivated to learn. As an educator, you're probably never going to be short of at least 5 raised hands in your class. You probably don't have to say, are there any questions? Because there most likely and most definitely will be questions from the students or comments, or maybe they want to offer their own opinion to challenge what you just said, but in a very, healthy way. And it's a really, really beautiful thing to witness, let alone, be a participant as an educator in that classroom. Why teach in China? Nick mentioned quite a bit as well about Shenzhen, but just a few points about teaching in China. My favorite way to answer that is really, why not? It's such a culmination of so many different things. It's technological, it's advanced, it's cultural, it's historical, it's beautiful. The people are, wonderful and welcoming and smiling, and it's you can find everything there. And then you can also find silence and solitude as well. And, as long as you're exploring it in the way that, Nick had mentioned, for example. Convenient modern living, you can leave the house with just a cell phone and you can get everything you need on your phone. Cutting edge technology, safe, very, very safe as well. Education is highly valued. So again, as a teacher in the classroom, the students, they respect you and they're there to learn from you, and you're cherished and loved as an educator in China, especially, at Basis. And then, I mentioned, historical, cultural, experiencing a new culture. If you are not currently in China or aren't, haven't been there before, and you're looking for a destination to go to teach abroad, China kind of really is it. It has everything you are looking for in that new cultural experience, and still have some of the things that are kind of important to you home wise, and as you may not be able to go home until the year end. So many different things. My answer again, why not? So I'm going to talk about our expat package. Really, really great and generous package. Actually, Basis takes very good care of their educators, their faculty members, their teachers. So travel benefits, we cover airfare to China, as well as airfare to your next destination home after your 3-year contract. And that includes moving allowance. And that also, by the way, includes for your accompanying children. And if you have an accompanying spouse, up to 2 accompanying children and a spouse as well, if you aren't both, teaching with Basis. Annual return home allowance as well. So annually, every summer after school, return home allowance to go and see your family at home, or go and travel China. Why not? Visa support as well. So you will be very well. I think this is probably one of the most important things for people who are looking to go abroad anywhere, and that's the visa. How can I legally go abroad? And you're in extremely good care and hands with the HR team who takes care of all that from start to arrival as well. And while you're there, they're very good, and you're in good hands with them. Fully paid furnished housing, and that in the number of rooms does differ for how many dependents you have as well. And fully furnished, like I said, so bed, furniture, tables, all kinds of things like that. Global health coverage as well. And for US citizens, it's really important you do have a form of coverage in the United States as well, which is, when I lived abroad, I didn't have that as well. And that was always a really big stress for me. So global healthcare, not just local China. Again, if you have accompanying children, up to 2 accompanying children per staff, up to 3 children per teaching couple, you will receive a tuition waiver for your students, or for your children rather, if you would like to enroll them into BASIS. Meals at school, which is fantastic. I've heard great things about the food at the schools. Yeah, great, right? Great. Something about like chefs coming in and preparing delicious meals, I think. Yeah. So breakfast and lunch provided at the school. We provide a 10% annual retirement benefit. So it doesn't get directly deposited into any particular, but the idea is that it's a retirement benefit for you to put towards a retirement plan of your choosing. Completion bonuses. Our contracts are 3 years in length, and you will receive a completion bonus upon fulfillment of that contract. And opportunities for additional bonuses. We have school-wide bonuses, individual performance bonuses. We do have AP courses, so we have AP bonuses and things like that. Again, it's very generous, and we take very good care of our teachers because they are taking very good care of our students. We do have a few requirements if you would like to apply with BASIS, which I hope you do. We do require that you have a degree in the subject of which you will be applying to teach for. That's something, if you're applying to be a mathematics teacher, we're looking for something mathematics related. If you're applying to be an art teacher, we're looking for someone who has a degree in fine art, something art related. Because that instills, the subject expertise, which is what we're trying to instill, pass along to our students. This next one is it's an actual visa requirement. We do require 2 years full-time teaching experience. We do, like Nick mentioned, someone who is genuinely passionate about teaching. You can't light that intellectual fire that Nick was saying if you aren't passionate about teaching. Again, willingness to collaborate with and elevate teaching colleagues. So many people toss around autonomy in the classroom, and truthfully, autonomy doesn't really exist if you're collaborating with your peers and bouncing ideas and sharing and helping each other and learning from your peers and elevating your colleagues as well. Very high academic standards, of course. You see almost 90% of our student population in the network are going to top 50 universities. Willing to work hard. We don't get these incredible results without hard work, passion, dedication. Ability to engage these young minds. They're very intellectual young adults, like I usually call them. And of course, some current visa restrictions, which does differ per region. So we have to take it, region by region, and also day by day, because things change in the climate that it is right now. So just some visa restrictions, nothing too crazy, to be honest. It is quite easy, just a little lengthier these days. A little bit, again, about working for BASIS International Schools. Our schools have mostly local Chinese students, predominantly local students. Small population is going to be international students, or maybe students of faculty members who are enrolled at the school, but predominantly English as a second language learners at the school. Flexibility is incredibly important. As you could see earlier, we're a very established network of schools, but still growing. And flexibility is important with a newer and rapidly growing network of schools, but it is very fulfilling to be a part of. Now, something to keep in mind, as you may have noticed throughout this presentation, that academics are quite rigorous and accelerated. For example, in 6th grade, the students are learning algebra, physics, biology, and chemistry. So keeping that in mind, we want to make sure that your student is going to be, comfortable and able to adapt quite quickly, and they should be ready for a BASIS education should you like to bring them along with you as an accompanying dependent. Future growth with BASIS, we mentioned it a little bit, but we have a new school opening this year in Wuhan, which is really exciting. And we have some upcoming schools this year, Beijing, not this year, but in the future rather, Beijing, Hangzhou Bilingual, Guangzhou Bilingual, and more to come in the future. We're really excited. If you would like to learn more about Basis, read stories. There's Nick actually has, we posted a few letters from Nick and insights from Nick on the blog page, which is right there, blog.basisinternationalschools.com. And you can see more, what's it like being a teacher? What are the students like? What are some activities they do? We have a blog about a TED Talk in there, just really exciting stuff. And it's very insightful. Yeah. Join our interest list as well. And you can keep updated with more information. And then, of course, the career site for applying for some career opportunities with us. And with that, I'll kind of have Tim come back on, and I will leave it open to Q&A if anybody has any questions.
Great. Well, so in terms of Q&A, Nick, I have my first question. You said you were looking to be a world-class rock climber. So I'm kind of curious, what was the most exciting or most challenging climb you've ever made in your life?
There was one that was a little bit more than exciting, actually. It went beyond the kind of the level. So I free soloed quite a short gritstone climb in the UK, and I hadn't really done much background reading on how difficult it was, and it was undergraded. So now it has a real reputation, but at the time, people just said, "Oh, it's okay," and I kind of got to the really difficult part and realized that below me was basically a pile of boulders, so falling off would have been pretty nasty, and I started to shake. And I didn't stop shaking until I got to the top, sort of half an hour later. I can still remember it today. I mean, we're going back quite a while in time now, but yeah, that climb is still highly respected as a really tough route. And because I was free soloing, of course, I'd taken somewhat of a risk. It's called Demon Rib, the name of the climb, so I still can remember it all. But yes, that was quite an experience.
Wow, sounds like it. Well, I'm looking forward to the next Netflix show coming out about your free solo climb up the over the top of the boulders. Very good. So starting off with a few questions that we had. One is, how are the teachers cared for and supported by the school? So Nick, if you can kind of share some light on, what does that look like? I know we've got unbelievably phenomenal operations team that support the teachers. If you can shed some light on some of the details, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think one of the key things, coming out here, particularly if you've not lived in this part of the world before. I mean, China's a long way from anywhere as well. So if you're coming out from the US, for example, there's a lot of trepidation, and there's a lot of issues in the world at the moment, and it's quite a sort of a risk to travel overseas. And the care that you get before you arrive is absolutely amazing. And a number of our teachers have commented on that this year. And the first thing they've sort of said to me is, I need to find Iris or I need to find Alice because I need to thank them for their support. It doesn't matter what time of day it is, they will respond and fix the problem immediately. And they said that they've never come across such level of concern and care. And also ability to solve problems. It's one thing to respond to an email, but then to actually get it fixed. And so that initial journey in from the time you sign the contract to come over here, that's the best I've ever seen in all the international schools I've worked in. And then once you're on the ground, of course, then the staff body then get heavily involved. We make sure that our teachers live on compounds together, so they're dotted around. We've got 4 or 5 different places now where people live, but there's always somebody along the corridor or in the tower block that you're in, and depending on whether you've got kids or whether you're single, we really have a careful look there to see that you've got people of similar interest to yourself. And we use our social network. We use an awful lot. So as soon as people arrive, they find themselves being whisked out for dinner. And I think that initial kind of landing is very soft in that sense, and then it's ongoing after that. I think, as Layla mentioned there, the collaboration piece is really, really important. We set the school up so that people work in teaching teams. We want people to come in and look for that as an asset, in a sense. So the care aspect comes in immediately there, in a sense that you've got colleagues who are working alongside you, recognizing your talents. We're all helping one another grow. So those are key parts. And then we do a lot of social stuff together. We have various events during the year. The board are very, very generous. They take us all out for dinner. They put us up in hotels. It's people are often blown away by the input on the board side of saying, we want to create a family, and to do that, you need to look after people.
Yeah, it's great. It's quite the Thanksgiving extravaganza.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's one that's just coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, very well. Good. Layla, I think there's a couple of other questions. You want to touch on that?
Yeah, we had a question here. Can you talk about the two-teacher model in elementary school?
Yep. So the co-teaching model. Yeah. So originally that started out. We had SET, so the subject expert teacher, which is the expat, and then the LET, the learning enhancement teacher, which are locally hired. And I think originally that model, sort of, perhaps because of the way it was set up, it tended to look more like a TA and an SET. So in other words, a teaching assistant, which is common in many international schools. But we wanted to make it much more profound than that, because we recognize that a lot of the local teachers are qualified teachers themselves. And by combining their knowledge with the SET and having them work in a co-teaching model would be really, could bring an awful lot more for the children. So this model has really sort of started to take off this year, and we're still shaping it. We're still providing training and development. And I think it's going to take a couple of years to really embed it properly. But I've seen in a lot of my observations situations where it's already working really well. And it is literally like having two teachers in the same room, but of course one speaks Mandarin and knows the kids socially very, very well. And then the expert teacher who works with the co-teacher, the LET, because they've done all the planning together, they get a better insight into what the kids really need as learners. So it's a really sort of powerful model. But if you're coming in to get sort of involved in that, I think it's very exciting. But it's going to require some flexibility, some learning, some development. But that's very much part of what we do. We're very organic. As I said earlier, you never sit still in education. You're always looking for a better way to do things. And I think here we've actually found a really additional piece in the equation. So we're not just TAs who do photocopying and that sort of thing. We're actually having two teachers combined to produce a really exciting educational experience for the children.
Right.
Perfect. Tim, was there another question?
Yep. One of the next questions is, what is the average class size?
Yeah, actually, that's a very timely question. So as we go into the new school, new campus, we have reduced the class size to a maximum of 22. So currently we're at 25 as a maximum. Because we're oversubscribed, basically the classes are at 25, but at 20, they'll be at 22 now. Mathematics will be a little bit different because if you're a mathematics teacher in middle and high school, our mathematics sets are based on ability, not age. Which I think is great. And mathematics kind of drives the timetable. If you're a timetabler, you'll understand that. So it is possible to have kids of maybe 2 years difference in a class because their maths levels are different. So that means some maths classes are quite small and some might go up to 25. We have to obviously average that across. But 25 would be the absolute maximum, but in the other classes, it's now 22. And if you teach high school, because it's very much an options model, lots and lots of electives, the class sizes vary considerably. They're probably between, I guess, 6 and 20, 24 at the moment. The majority is sort of somewhere in the middle there. But if you're in primary, and in middle, then it's more like 25 that will become 22.
Great, thank you. Exciting. Moving to the new campus, lots of great things happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next question is, can you describe the typical day of a primary student at Basis?
A typical day of a primary student. Okay. So in our, it does vary between the schools, but in our school at the moment, the kids do quite a bit of kind of moving around because we're oversubscribed. We have a limited number of rooms. So basically the kids, they move with their LET. So the LET is very much like a primary homeroom teacher in many ways. They really know the kids well. So they move them around to work with the specialists. So one thing you'll notice about a basis model, which is very different in the primary school, is that it's set up more like a middle school in a sense where the kids visit specialists for each subject. And we don't have that generalist that is typical of primary schools who teaches every subject. So if the kids are in, let's take grade 4, for example, they have mathematics every day, they have science every day, they have English every day. That's a different teacher. They also have specials. So that'll vary a little bit, but they've got music, art, and drama, also with different teachers. So the only common teacher amongst those would be the LET. Otherwise, it's an expat specialist. So this is where some of the quality is coming from in the primary school that you don't normally get. But it also means, of course, the kids are being challenged by a changing environment. And it's quite interesting the way that sort of balances out, but it seems to get them ready faster for the middle school experience. So we've got basically the kids going through all the normal subjects, but they're on the move, and they have a specialist for each subject. They also do a course called Connections, which is interdisciplinary, which is actually taught by the LET. And of course, they have Chinese, which is taught by a Chinese specialist. Sometimes it's the LET, but not always.
Right. One detail on that, I was asked about start and end of daytimes.
Yeah, we kick off at 8 o'clock. We all start at 8 o'clock from K to 12. You might be doing very different things. If you're in K, you're probably eating your breakfast. If you're in grade 12, you might be doing something very profound. And then the primary school and early childhood finish earlier. So that's sort of a 3. It varies a little bit, but it's around about a 3 o'clock, 3:20 finish. And then there's an extra elective at the end of the day for middle school and high school, which finishes at 4:20. So the longest days for the kids, for the older ones, goes to 4:20. We also have student hour after that, which is where teachers offer additional support to kids. So in your subject, you'll offer a student hour. In primary, it's a student half hour. And then we also do clubs. Clubs are provided by teachers if they want to offer a club. It's not a requirement, as I know it is in many international schools. And if you offer a club, you actually get paid extra for doing it. And what we really like is teachers having kids run clubs, and the teacher supervises the club. So it's actually student-led. You still get paid for that as well, of course. But we're trying to really promote that with our high school kids, that they actually are running the club program as much as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you. Still a few more questions to come in. In terms of arriving into China, when are staff expected to be into China in preparation for the start of school term?
So with new hires, in the past, we've had a sort of a 2-week window. So 2 weeks before we start with the children, we'll have a week training with the new staff. And that's been training, but also a lot of social stuff together. And then we have a week when the old staff arrive, and we get together and do more sort of stuff about the year ahead. So it's a sort of 2-week window. We are discussing shortening that a little bit at the moment with some of the current sort of stresses and strains. But in fact, the way the contract works and the way the housing works, a lot of people come out earlier than that because the housing's ready. And of course, if you come out, have a couple of weeks in Shekou just to settle in, the housing's already there for you. It's already key in the door. Everything's set up. that's a nice way to do it. So yeah, so the earlier the better, and we're ready for you, which is also interesting because many international schools don't operate that way, and they say, well, you can't come out until a certain date, and it makes it very tight, whereas we don't do it that way. We have the housing ready early, and a lot of people can settle in, and they appreciate that. And of course, senior people tend to be around and can help out.
That's great. One of the next to last questions. What are classroom observations like? Is it?
That's a great question. Yeah, great question. Yeah. Okay. So the idea of the observations is to support the growth model. So if you our sort of whole idea about teachers developing. So to support the growth model, we've got the domains that we mentioned earlier, so teachers can see what the domains are about. We have some online stuff, an online sort of study, if you like, before people arrive, so they can get used to the domains. And there's a couple of videos discussing aspects of the domain. So teachers get a sense of, hey, these are the things that people are looking for when they come to see me. So what we do is we try to collect as much evidence as we can before we sit down with teachers and say, this is what we are seeing. And we therefore would be the head of division, the vice head of division, and me, and also the chair. So, you've got 4 people coming in, seeing things from different angles. And when new staff come in, we maybe, they may have probably 10 observations in the first sort of month or so. So it can appear a little bit sort of intensive, but the idea is really to have a quality conversation about these are the things we're seeing that are really in line with what the domains are asking of you. These are some areas to work on. And what we're trying to do then is to get the teacher to reflect on their own practice, because of course, if you're reflective on your own practice, you can then start to make your own adjustments as you go forward. So we have a kind of probationary period that lasts till the end of November. And then we sort of sit down and say, this is where we think you're up to. And of course, probationary periods in international schools are very normal. But what we're trying to do really is, rather than just say, you passed or you failed or whatever, is to really develop that conversation. And then as soon as people go onto the growth pathway, we continue observing, we continue having coaching conversations, and teachers then write formal reflections about their teaching midway through the year and at the end of the year. And then we set up goals that relate back to the domains. So in many ways, this sort of domains are a little bit like our Bible. People get used to using that language, thinking about their practice in terms of each of the strands. So the observations really are all about developing a narrative, if you like, of this is what I'm seeing in the classroom, in your lessons, from start to finish, the middle, all sections. And I think when people get used to it, they see it as a really powerful tool for growth. People start to realize that they've never thought about themselves so much as teachers from their previous schools. But it can appear a bit daunting. I do accept that we kind of talk people through and say, this is part of your growth pathway. It's not we're not looking to catch people out, as it were.
Right. Question came up in terms of what vacancies are available for this academic year. One thing that I can say is we do post all of our positions to the career site. You can see the career site address there listed below. Nick, any particular things you would like to highlight relative to that for the upcoming school year?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest growth area is in the middle school. I could talk a little bit about the middle school, actually, because our middle school's accelerated. Those of you that maybe have taught internationally before, you may have come across IGCSE or GCSE qualifications, which are usually sort of delivered to kids at the age of 16. And so, that would be a sort of 5-year middle school. So from 11 to 16. So as you leave middle school, you take those examinations. So the level that we are looking for as kids exit grade 8, so 2 years earlier than that, is equivalent to sort of IGCSE. So when you think of being a middle school specialist in a basis school, you're really kind of a pre-high school specialist. It's it is it is accelerated, and we do need that kind of subject expertise at that level. That is important. And so teaching biology to a grade 7 class, it is really biology. It's not some kind of watered down model. So yeah, it's quite interesting. So if people really like working with middle school kids, but have got that subject expert background, then this might be quite sort of a really nice job for them to consider. True in mathematics as well. Of course, the mathematics is, as you mentioned earlier. I think Layla mentioned, we've got kids doing algebra at a very young age, so that the acceleration there is also profound.
Great. It looks like that's the bulk of the questions. There were a couple other questions, a little bit more individual, and responded to those directly. I think that covers the bulk of the questions we have for today. But Nick, thank you so much for sharing about the school. It's an exciting, beautiful new campus that you're going to be moving to. As Layla said, it's you've encouraged me to kind of fall in love with Shenzhen all over again, and looking forward to seeing you there at the next opportunity we can get. But again, for everybody that participated again today, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to again follow us on our social channels. You can see more information about the school that we do have. We share insights about what's happening, pictures, video about the events at the schools, insights from our teachers about what their experience is like. And you can see a lot of those stories on our blog at blog.basisinternationalschool.com.
And this will be posted on the YouTube afterwards as well.
So thanks, everybody. Thanks for participating, and have a wonderful day or evening, depending on where you are in the world, where you're joining us from. Thanks, everybody. Take care.